I'm John, a 42-year-old farmer. I've spent my life on the family farm. It's tough work, and I've always worried about the crops. A few months ago, things got really bad. The fields were dry, and I was losing hope like never before. I never thought I'd turn to the witch. It was a gloomy day when I decided to see her. The sky was dark, heavy with clouds. The wind whipped through the fields, making my crops dance. I trudged back from checking on the sheep. They seemed fine, but something felt off. I felt a knot in my stomach. How was I supposed to keep the farm running? Days went by, and my situation didn't improve. My desperation grew. I had heard stories about the witch on the edge of the forest. People said she had powers. So I decided to visit her. I couldn't shake the thought of what I was about to do. When I reached her cabin, it looked worn down. I knocked on the door, and it creaked open. She stood there, her eyes penetrating right through me. I think she felt my desperation before I even spoke. "I need help," I said. Her reply chilled me. She agreed to help, but there was a catch. "I'll need a favor," she said. I didn't quite understand what that meant, but I was too desperate to care. I felt a shiver run down my spine. That night, I went to bed, but strange noises woke me up. It sounded like my animals were in distress. It was as if the fields were crying out. My heart raced. I thought I heard my sheep bleating, but I couldn't be sure. I stumbled out of bed, my feet cold on the ground. The night was pitch dark. I crept toward the sounds, nervous and confused. As I reached the sheep, I felt a wave of dread wash over me. They were huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. I could see strange marks in the dirt by them. They looked deliberate. I felt unsettled. Why were they like this? The following nights were worse. The sheep didn't eat. They grew more restless. I noticed my neighbors. They watched me from a distance. Their whispers filled the air when I got closer. I felt them judging me. I realized they knew something I didn't. The weight of that witch's favor sat heavy on my heart. I didn't want to believe it, but I feared I unleashed something in those fields. I could feel it creeping into my bones. The shadows in the fields began to flicker. I tried to shake the feeling away, but it lingered like a terrible nightmare. Then one night, as I stepped outside to calm the sheep, I heard my name. A voice called to me from the darkness. My skin crawled. Fear curled around my heart. I didn't know what I had done, but I felt it coming for me, whatever it was. The shadows grew closer. I knew then I was in over my head, and there was no turning back. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice wasn't just in my head. It felt real, echoing in the air like a haunting melody. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out what was lurking beyond the tree line. The wind rustled the leaves, and the shadows twisted unnaturally, almost reaching for me. "John," the voice called again. It was low and thrilling, filled with an unnameable promise. I took a step back, the cold seeping into my bones. Who was calling me? What did they want? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the fear creeping back in. "It's just the wind," I mumbled to myself. But as much as I tried to convince myself, something about that voice sent a shiver down my spine. It felt almost personal. I forced myself to think about the witch. Had she done this? Did her favor come at a price I was too blind to see? I glanced toward the cabin, knowing I couldn't turn back now. I needed answers. Determined, I made my way back inside. Once there, I searched every corner of the house, feeling like I was running out of time. The sheep were still restless outside, and all I could think was that they were connected to whatever was going on. I needed to know what the witch had truly done. My eyes landed on the old chest in the corner. I hadn't opened it in years. With shaky hands, I flipped the lid, and dust floated up into the air. Inside, I found my grandfather's journal. I buried my face in it, hoping to find some wisdom. The pages turned yellow and fragile. My grandfather had made notes about his dealings with the witch, too. As I read, a pit formed in my stomach. There were warnings beyond warnings about poor bargains, lost souls, and curses that could haunt you for eternity. I felt like a fool for not having read this sooner. The last entry shook me. It spoke about a bond created with her magic. If the bond was broken without fulfilling its purpose, there would be consequences. My hands trembled as I closed the journal. I had to find out what the witch expected from me. But was it too late? Suddenly, I heard a noise outside. I stepped toward the window and peered out. My breath caught. The shadows flickered again, and I could see something moving. Dark shapes gathering near the sheep. They seemed to be swirling, almost alive. I held my breath. That's when I saw it. From the depths of the shadows, a figure emerged, tall and shrouded. My eyes widened as I realized it was a woman, but not just any woman. Her sharp features were unmistakable. It was the witch. "John," she said, her voice carrying through the night air like a knife cutting through silence. My heart sank. I hadn't expected her to come back so soon. Panic ignited within me. I stepped away from the window, unsure of what to do. I was trapped between needing answers and fearing the unknown. My gaze fell once more on the journal. If I didn't confront her now, things would only get worse. With newfound determination, I opened the door and stepped outside. The air was thick, and tension hung around me like a fog. I would find out what pact I had entered into, even if it meant facing my worst fears. As I approached, her eyes glinted in the dark. "You've come," she said, a smile curling at the corners of her lips. "I was wondering when you would join me." And then everything went dark. I stumbled forward, the darkness swallowing me whole. My heart raced, and I could almost hear the wick of fear crackle in my chest. Where was she? Had she vanished, or had I simply lost my senses? I blinked, trying to make out anything in the thick gloom. A sudden gust of wind whipped around me, sending a chill down my spine. The sheep in the pen broke into a frenzy, bleating wildly. The commotion snapped me out of my paralysis. I had to get a grip. I couldn't let panic take hold. "Show yourself!" I shouted into the void. My voice sounded defiant, but deep down I was quaking. Silence answered me, stretching out long and cold. I took a cautious step forward, remembering the weight of the journal in my pocket. The warnings echoed louder than ever. I had opened a door, and now I needed to know what lay beyond it. Just then, a low chuckle broke through the silence. I spun around, searching for the source. "Brave, aren't we?" It was her voice, lingering like smoke. There she was, outlined by a flicker of moonlight, her features sharp as she stepped closer. "I need to know what you want from me," I managed, my voice steady, though my knees felt weak. The witch tilted her head, a wry smile stretching across her face. "Want? Oh, darling, it's more about what you owe." Her words lingered in the air, thick with meaning. "You've confused a gift with a favor." "I didn't ask for any of this," I protested, though I knew deep down I had taken that chance. I had wandered into the woods, seeking her help, but what had I really asked for? "Ah, but you did," she said, her tone smooth like silk. "You sought abundance, and in return, you've chained yourself to my will." Panic surged again. "What do you mean? What's this bond?" She stepped forward again, and I felt a pulse in the air between us, something charged and unnatural. "The bond is alive, John. It connects us, and if untethered carelessly, it can lead to consequences."
Suddenly, the ground beneath began to tremble slightly, as if responding to her words.
My breath hitched. Consequences? What kind of consequences? The shadows danced around her, flickering like flames. You will find out soon enough. But first, the sheep. They are part of the pact, after all. Fear washed over me as I turned toward the pen. The animals were still agitated, moving in erratic patterns, their panic infectious. I could feel the witch's gaze on me, heavy and expectant. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I was rooted in place. "Look closer," she whispered, her voice almost mesmerizing. I squinted into the pen, and that's when I saw it. In the darkness, something moved among the sheep. A glimmer, a flicker of something not quite natural. My heart sank. It felt like an entity, a presence manipulating their fear. As dread filled the air, I turned back to her, ready for answers. What's happening to them? But she had already faded back into the shadows, leaving just an echo of her laugh behind. I stood there, heart racing, intensified panic coursing through my veins. I had to find the truth, but the deeper I dug, the more dangerous my questions became. And then, just like that, my worst fears manifested. A low growl ripped through the air, rumbling from the shadows. Something was coming for me. I turned toward the sound, and my blood ran cold. The growl echoed again, deeper this time, reverberating through the night. I didn't have to see what was lurking to know that it was wrong. It felt primal and dark, something that didn't belong in the ordinary world I knew. I took a step back, my instincts screaming for me to run. But where would I go? The forest behind me was as sinister as the shadows in front. The frantic bleats of the sheep grew louder, as if they sensed the impending danger. I needed to think clearly, but fear muddied my mind. A shape twisted out of the shadows, long and sinewy, its eyes glowing like molten amber. The thing moved with unnatural swiftness, a predator out for prey. I stumbled back, panic rising like bile. "No, please!" I shouted, my voice trembling as I held my ground. Then I remembered the journal. The promises of protection I had hoped for lingered in my pocket. I grabbed it, fumbling with the clasp, praying it contained something that could help. As I opened the cover, a gust of wind swept through the pen, carrying a chill that wrapped around my spine. The creature paused, curiosity gleaming in its eyes as it assessed the situation. It was no longer focused on the sheep. It was focused on me. I could hardly breathe. "Get away from them!" I yelled, suddenly infused with a surge of defiance. I felt desperate, but I wasn't going to let them suffer, not while I stood by. I flipped through the pages of the journal, searching for something, anything that would give me power. My eyes darted across the faded ink, descriptions of ancient rituals and artifacts that eased the earth's burdens. I hesitated at the mention of binding spells, but I shook my head. A binding? Was I really ready to put myself even more in her grasp? The growl drew closer, vibrating against my bones. "What are you?" I shouted, trying to buy myself time. The creature was now a blur, like a living shadow creeping toward me. Suddenly, a loud, booming sound shattered the tension. Lightning, bright and vivid, illuminated the scene. For an instant, I could see the creature clearly, its elongated limbs, sharp teeth, and an unsettling grin that spread across its face. Then the light vanished, leaving me in darkness once more. My heart raced as I could hear its breath, hot and heavy. "No," I whispered. Then I remembered the witch's words. "You owe me," she said. This was what she meant. The pact was starting to tighten around me like a noose, But this wasn't what I wanted. The growl transformed into a snarl, echoing through the night air. I sensed movement behind me. The sheep, still caught in a frenzy, were suddenly quiet. Something shifted, a ripple of energy flowing through them. They were reacting to the threat, eyes wide with terror. Before I could process what was happening, a new sound burst forth from the depths of the pen, a shrill bleat. It wasn't just any bleat. It was different, filled with urgency. Someone was coming. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't alone in this. I had called for help the moment I sought more than I could handle. But who or what would arrive? As I turned, the darkened silhouette of a figure emerged from between the trees, moving toward me, determined and deliberate. My world spun. I felt the bond tugging stronger, a dangerous current pulling me deeper into the darkness that surrounded us. "Who are you?" I shouted, my heart pounding. But as the figure stepped into the dim light, I realized with horror it was someone I knew, someone who might change everything. I strained my eyes in the darkness, trying to make sense of the figure that had just emerged. As it stepped into the faint glow of the moonlight, a chill crept down my spine. It was Leon, the farmer from down the road. "Leon?" I gasped, uncertainty flooding my voice. I had known him for years, but now he looked different, haunted, as if he were trapped in a nightmare. The familiar wrinkles on his forehead were replaced by a new intensity. "What are you doing here?" He paused, scanning the area with wild eyes. When he finally focused on me, there was an urgency I had never seen before. I heard something. I thought it was my sheep, but then I saw. He trailed off, glancing at the creature that lingered just outside the light. His eyes flickered with recognition, and the corners of his mouth pulled down. "You shouldn't be here, Rachel. You don't know what you're dealing."
"I know it's dangerous," I countered, clutching the journal tightly, "but I can't just let it have the sheep. You can't stop it," he cut me off, his voice low and tense. "We should go while we—" Before he could finish, the creature lunged, a blur of shadows and fangs. It surged towards us, a low growl rumbling in its throat. My heart stopped. Everything around me seemed to fall silent, swallowed by the threat that loomed. Without thinking, I stepped forward instinctively, holding the journal like a shield. "Get back!" I shouted, feeling a desperate surge of power. I flipped the page at random, hoping to find words that could save us. Leon grabbed my arm. "You're putting yourself in danger. The witch's magic has a cost." In that moment, the creature hesitated. The growl faltered into an eerie silence. I could see its eyes narrowing, as if it was somehow drawn to the journal, to the ancient words and forgotten promises. "This isn't just a book," I said, feeling a flicker of hope mixed with dread. "I think it might work." Just then, a flicker of movement from the sheep caught my eye. They had settled, their panic subsiding. I could feel a different kind of energy radiating off them, as if they had turned into a wall of protection. It was unsettling and comforting all at once. "Rachel, we need to leave," Leon insisted, his voice rising with urgency. But I couldn't tear my gaze from the creature. I could see it evaluating us, perhaps sensing the shift in the energy surrounding the sheep. "Stand with me," I cried, turning to Leon as the growl began to vibrate through the air again, "and help me hold it here." He hesitated, his fear palpable. "What do you mean, hold it?" But I could see the resolve in his eyes begin to harden. Before I could explain, I whispered the first words from the page, my voice barely more than a tremor. The creature jerked back, as if struck, its eyes flaring. Leon's grip tightened around my arm, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if we were tethered together, holding on to harmony. Then everything erupted. A power surged through the ground under our feet, and the air thickened with energy that felt both electric and terrifying.
I glanced up, and that's when I saw it. The light glimmering from the journal pulsed, radiating a strange glow. It was as if it was alive, and more than that, it was connected to the creature. I had unleashed something, but I didn't know if it was the magic that would save us, or an entirely new threat. As the beast snarled, poised to strike, I realized I had awakened something much darker. "Leon, I don't know what I've done," I shouted, panic rising again. The energy swelled around us, building to a breaking point. And that was when I noticed something else. Someone was coming from within the trees.
A figure cloaked in shadows, their presence commanding and terrifying. It felt as if the world had drawn in a breath, waiting for the next moment to unfold. The figure stepped closer, moving gracefully despite the tangled underbrush. My heart raced as I tried to make out features in the fading light. Shadows shifted around them, creating a living cloak made out of the night itself. The creature snarled, drawn toward the newcomer with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "Rachel, we need to go now! This is a mistake!" Leon shouted, his voice cracking with fear. I felt paralyzed. There was something almost familiar about the cloaked figure, something that called to me like a long-forgotten memory. "Wait!" I gasped, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I have to know who they are." Leon shook his head vehemently, his eyes darting between me and the shadowy figure. "You can't be serious! We don't have time for this!" But the moment had taken on a life of its own. The figure continued to advance, and the energy in the air shifted again. This time it felt different, darker, and more oppressive. I took a cautious step forward, the journal still cradled in my arms. "Who are you?" I called out, unsure if my voice would even reach them. The figure stopped, and for a moment silence enveloped us all. The creature hesitated, caught between the two of us. "I am the voice of the land," the figure finally said, their voice smooth and low like a dark river. "And I have come to collect." "Collect what?" I blurted out, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Your wish," they replied, their voice echoing through the quiet night, twisting my thoughts. "You called for help, did you not? A witch's bargain is sacred." At that moment, the anger in my chest flared. I had not asked for this. I didn't call for anything. I just wanted to protect my home. The figure tilted their head, considering my words. "Every wish has a price, child. You didn't know the cost, but you awakened something that desires more than just your sheep." I glanced helplessly at Leon, who looked as horrified as I felt. "What does that mean?" I demanded, gripping the journal tighter. The creature bristled, its growl deepening, sensing the rising tension. It was edging closer, eyeing the figure as if it were a threat. "Your ignorance has bound you," the cloaked figure replied, a hint of something almost like sympathy in their voice. "The enchantment has already been cast. The beast thrums with your energy." Before I could process what that meant, the journal pulsed again, almost as if it had a heartbeat. "I could help you control it," the figure continued, stepping closer, extending a hand toward me. "Or I could let it loose, and you will find it harder to reclaim what you care for." "Don't listen to them, Rachel," Leon shouted. "They're trying to manipulate you." I could feel the weight of their gaze, the pressure of the decision hanging heavy in the air. My instincts screamed to run, but a part of me wanted to understand this dark magic. What did it mean for me? Then the creature lunged again, its fangs bared. In that split second, my heart sank. The force of the energy surrounding us surged, and I knew the moment was slipping away. "Make your choice," the figure commanded, the shadows around them flickering violently. I caught sight of the fear in Leon's eyes, saw the tension in the creature's muscles. There was no turning back. I had to act. That was when I heard a sound behind me, a soft rustle. I turned just in time to see another shape emerging from the trees, and my breath caught in my throat. This was no creature or friend. It brought a whole new wave of danger with it. The rustle grew louder, snapping me from my trance. I turned, my eyes wide in disbelief. A tall figure stepped into view, framed by the dim outline of the trees. At first, I thought it was just another shadow, but then it transformed into someone more solid. A man, rugged and worn, but with a glint in his eyes that told me he was not here for friendly reasons. "Stay back!" Leon shouted, stepping in front of me. "What do you want?" The man smirked, his expression unsettling in the dim light. "It seems I'm not the only one drawn to this cursed place," he said, his voice low and smooth. "I've been watching for a long time, waiting for my opportunity, and here it is." I felt a rush of confusion. "Who are you?" "You can call me Rowan," he said, taking a slow step forward. "I've come to reclaim what was taken from me, and I believe you have it." The cloaked figure shifted, its posture tensing, but it remained silent. The creature, now on the verge of snapping, sensed the newcomer's presence, its growl intensifying into an ominous rumble. "What do you mean, reclaim?" I pressed, my heart pounding in my chest. The air around us felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Rowan's gaze locked onto mine, and I could see the intensity in his eyes. "The magic in that journal is mine. It was forged from my blood and my family's history. I can feel its pull even now." My grip on the journal tightened, the weight of his claim heavy on my mind. "I found it! It's mine now!" I shot back, defiance breaking through the fear. "Oh, Rachel, you don't understand." Rowan's tone softened, almost coaxing. "That journal is a portal into a power you cannot control. You think you're protecting your home? You're only inviting destruction." The shadows deepened, swirling like a storm gathering strength. I felt trapped between Rowan's ambition and the cloaked figure's promises. I glanced at Leon, who was still full of defensive energy. "We need to go," he urged again, but I felt an anchor holding me in place. I was at the center of something greater than I'd realized. The creature roared, snapping my attention back to the chaos surrounding us. Its eyes glowed, furious and wild. It sensed the rising threats and uncertainty, and in that moment, all hell broke loose. Rowan's hand shot out, a flash of energy crackling between his fingers. "You've awakened its fury. I can help you tame it." Suddenly, the cloaked figure surged, its shadows rippling violently as it shouted, "They will deceive you, Rachel. Choose wisely." Before I could breathe, the creature lunged in our direction, wild and powerful, caught in a frenzy of magic and might. I stumbled backward, instinctively pulling Leon with me as I tried to escape its wrath. That's when I noticed something glowing between the trees, a strange light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the chaos. It flickered like a beacon, calling to me through the madness. "What now?" Leon shouted in panic. I stared at the light, my mind racing. Whatever it was, it might hold the key to stepping out of this nightmare. But which danger should I face first? Rowan's ambition, the creature's rage, or the cloaked figure's dark promise? "I don't know," I shouted back, as the world around me spiraled into chaos, time running out. I took a breath and made my decision. I dashed toward the light, making a break for it. "Rachel, wait!" Leon shouted, but I kept my eyes on the glow. It seemed to pull me in, urging me to move faster.
Behind me, the creature roared again, its monstrous form charging through the underbrush. The ground shook beneath its weight. I could feel the energy crackling in the air, a volatile mix of fear and adrenaline. "Get back here!" Leon's voice was strained, but I refused to look back. The light felt like my only hope. As I neared it, the glow intensified, revealing a strange stone pedestal bathed in luminescence. Atop it rested a shimmering crystal, pulsing like a heartbeat. Something deep inside me told me this was no ordinary object. It radiated power, and I felt an inexplicable connection to it. Just as I reached for the crystal, a wave of heat surged through the clearing. The creature had broken into the open, rage coursing off it in palpable waves. It stood there, coiled to strike, eyes locked onto me and the crystal. "Don't touch it!" Rowan's voice bellowed, cutting through the chaos. "It's a trap!" But my hand was already hovering above the crystal. A force I couldn't ignore filled me, urging me forward. I realized that my instincts had led me here. Maybe this was the key to controlling whatever chaos was happening. A brilliant spark erupted from the crystal as my fingers grazed its surface. The light exploded, splintering into shards that danced around me, cutting through the shadows and revealing everything. Rowan's smirk faded.
"You fool! You don't know what you're doing!" My heart raced. The creature paused momentarily, perhaps confused by the sudden brilliance. I seized the chance and grasped the crystal tightly. I could feel pulses of energy shooting up my arm, filling me with a warmth that soothed my fears. But it also sparked something darker. I sensed a shift in the air, a ripple of tension. The shadows surrounding me writhed, as if reacting to the power I was wielding. Then, from the depths of the darkness, the cloaked figure emerged, its presence like ice against the warmth radiating from the crystal. "Foolish girl, you have no idea what forces you're meddling with," it snarled. It was a warning I couldn't ignore, yet I felt emboldened. "I'm done running away," I yelled, my voice stronger than I'd anticipated. With the crystal in my hands, I gathered the power surging through me. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. Whatever this was, it could be my salvation or my undoing. "Rachel, be careful!" Leon's voice cracked, laced with dread. I turned to find Rowan and the cloaked figure staring each other down, the tension thick enough to slice through. The creature shifted restlessly, still caught in its frenzied state. A revelation hit me then. "What's your connection to all of this?" I demanded, addressing the cloaked figure. "Why are you so interested in the journal?" For a moment, everything froze. The creature, Rowan, even the shadows seemed to hold their breath, waiting for an answer. The cloaked figure hesitated, its eyes narrowing. "Because I was its keeper, a keeper who now stands in the way of those who seek power." I felt the weight of my choice pressing down on me. The creature howled, and the shadows flickered dangerously around us. That's when the realization struck. The crystal could either bind this chaos or unleash it further. "Make your choice, Rachel!" Rowan shouted as the shadows threatened to converge. "Control it or let it consume you!" I took a deep breath, my pulse steadying. The air buzzed with anticipation as I considered the enormity of my decision. What was meant to be a world of secrets and shadows was morphing into a battlefield, and I stood at its center. The moment stretched, my heart racing again. This was it. I had to act. I felt the weight of the crystal in my hand, its warmth contrasting with the coldness of the creature's eyes. As if sensing my hesitation, the entity snarled, its growl vibrating through the air. Whatever I decided next would change everything. The shadows twisted, creeping closer as the murmurs of power pulsed around me. "I won't let you control me,"
I yelled, surprising myself again with the authority in my voice. I didn't know if I could wield this energy, but I had to try. "Focus," Leon shouted, breaking through my swirling thoughts. "You have to channel it." I locked my gaze on the crystal, feeling
the heat radiate stronger. Images flickered behind my eyes, memories of the journal, whispers of forgotten spells. This was my chance to turn the tide. If I could tap into this power, I might muster enough force to stand against the creature, and the cloaked figure, too. "Stand back!" I shouted again, my voice firm, even as my heart thudded like a trapped bird. The shadows curled away just slightly, giving me room to breathe. I raised the crystal high above my head, channeling everything I felt: fear, determination, hope. Then everything changed. A beam of light shot from the crystal, striking the ground near the cloaked figure. The earth trembled and erupted, sending shards of stone and light high into the air. The creature howled, fatally drawn to the surge of energy. The cloaked figure staggered back, its icy facade cracking for the first time. "What have you done?" it snarled, eyes wild with confusion and anger. I didn't care. I pressed my advantage, directing the power downward, feeling it pulling in the creature's rage. It lashed out, its claws making contact with the ground, but they couldn't reach me. I looked at Rowan. "Help me, we have to contain it." His eyes widened, and he rushed to my side, placing his palms against the ground. I understood then. He was ready to connect our energies, to reinforce the bond between us. Rowan helped focus the flow, but the shadows were relentless, still trying to weave their way around us. "The key is unity," he shouted, urgency sharpening his tone. That's when I spotted something. There, nestled in the shadows, was the journal. It lay half-buried, its pages fluttering as if in protest. I could see the ink glimmering, reacting to the energy we were generating. "Rowan, the journal!" I cried. With each surge of light, the shadows quivered, and I felt the dark tension begin to break apart. I needed to get to that journal, but the creature was regaining its focus, thrashing against the walls of light we had built. "Rachel, grab it!" Leon yelled, desperation in his voice. I took a breath, summoning bravery I didn't know I had. "Hold it," I told Rowan as I dashed toward the journal, every instinct warning me against the movement. The shadows lunged, trying to reclaim their territory. I barely reached it when a roar shook me to my core. The creature was bearing down, its fury focused entirely on me. Then everything went dark. I had no idea what that meant for us, or for the crystal still blazing in my grasp. I stumbled backward, disoriented as the darkness enveloped me. The roar of the creature echoed in my ears, turning the world inside out. Panic surged like electricity through my veins as I fought to remember where I was. One moment I was clutching the journal, the next I was lying on the ground with nothing but silence around me. "Rachel?" A voice pierced through the haze, familiar and urgent. I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding. It was Leon, his silhouette emerging from the shadows. "There you are!" He rushed to me, visibly shaken. "You went dark. I thought I lost you." I shook my head, trying to gather my thoughts. What happened? Before he could respond, the light returned, flickering on the horizon like the dawn breaking over the fields. It pulsed, sending a shimmer of energy through the air. Instinctively, I reached for the journal, which lay just beyond my grasp. As I grasped it, the pages fluttered open, revealing scrawled symbols that glowed under the light. "Look!" Leon pointed, his eyes wide with realization. The creature stirred from the shadows, its monstrous form glistening like charcoal in the brightness that filled the clearing. Somehow, my instinct to reach for the journal had awakened something deep within me, an ancient bond that connected the three of us. Without hesitation, I held the journal up high, the symbols glimmering more vividly. "This was meant to protect the land," I shouted, certainty flooding my voice. This was never about control or destruction. This is about finding balance. Rowan appeared next to us, his expression a mixture of intrigue and disbelief. "You've tapped into something irreversible," he said softly, watching the golden light wrap around me and Leon like a shield. A chilling laughter rippled from the shadows. "Do you really think you can tame what was never meant to be bound?" The cloaked figure emerged from the darkness, undeterred by the radiance around us. "You play with forces beyond comprehension." "Maybe," I replied, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "But I'm the one holding the history here. If we work together, maybe we can find the true purpose of this bond." The creature snarled, its eyes narrowing as if processing my words. The energy emanating from the journal surged, wrapping around the shadows, but they weren't easily contained. The darkness stirred, searching for anything left unguarded. "Fill it with your intent," Rowan urged, stepping closer. "Breathe life into it." I focused on the connection, breathing deeply as memories flashed through my mind. The farm, my family, the solace of the land. I sent those feelings into the journal and felt the pulse of the energy respond. "What's happening?" Leon asked, awe in his eyes. The light intensified, forming a bridge of illumination that stretched toward the creature. It hesitated, caught between the pull of fear and the promise of something more. But the cloaked figure stood firm, whispering spells foreign to human ears, attempting to draw it back. "Don't let it pull you under," I shouted to Leon, desperate for him to channel the growing energy. He nodded firmly, holding my hand as we both focused on that bright light. Together, we filled it with our fears and hopes, our desire for resolve. Suddenly, the creature lunged forward again, but this time it was met with a wall of light. The burst of energy surged back, crackling with formidable force, pushing the creature back into the shadows. "Resist it!" I screamed, summoning every ounce of power I could muster. "This land has waited long enough." The cloaked figure's expression wavered. Doubt flickered in its eyes, as the creature began to shrink back, retreating from the light, trapped between realms. Its growl turned into a whimper as the bond we forged took effect. But in the tumult, one final surge of energy ripped through the clearing, a blast that tore across the skies. The shadows twisted one last time, and the walls of darkness collapsed around us like a sickening tide. Then, as quickly as it started, everything stilled. The creature vanished, swallowed whole by the light. We stood there, breathless, drenched in silence. The air was thick with stillness, almost reverent. "Did we—" Leon began, but his words trailed off. "I think so," I whispered, the weight of the moment settling over me like a heavy blanket. The creature was gone, but my heart was still racing from the encounter. Rowan stepped closer, a new light glimmering in his eyes. "You've created a balance, but the price—" He eyed the journal speculatively. "You may never see the witch again, but her influence will remain. You're part of this now." The cloaked figure was silent, shadows beginning to mend into the folds of trees, but not without hesitation. Was it truly gone, or merely watching from afar? I felt a tingle at the back of my neck, reminding me of the magic that lingered, both unsafe and exhilarating. "I don't know what all of this means," I said, turning to Leon, "but I think there's more to uncover." He nodded, his expression resolute. "Then we'll find it together." We walked from the clearing hand in hand, the journal clutched tightly in my grasp. The sun began to rise, illuminating the path ahead. Two farmers, not entirely freed from the clutches of darkness, but armed with knowledge and determination. I didn't know what the future held, or what watched from the fringes of our lives. But I knew this: the journey had only just begun. As the warm light embraced us, I felt uncertainty settle among the fleeting shadows, the promise of new questions emerging alongside lingering answers. I couldn't shake the feeling, deep down, that the witch might not be done with me just yet.